1880s, Wyoming Territory. The bride was crying on her wedding night. Not quietly. Her face was buried in the pillow, her fingers trembling against the blanket as tears soaked the worn fabric beneath her cheek. Across the small cabin, her new husband stood frozen beside the lantern. Caleb Mercer had faced blizzards, outlaws, stampeding cattle, and men with guns. But he had never known what to do with a woman's tears. Especially when that woman was his wife. He looked down at the blood soaking through his shirt. Then at Clara. She finally lifted her face. "Please." Her voice cracked. "Don't leave me." Caleb reached for his gun belt. "I have to." Clara suddenly grabbed his wrist. "No. You don't understand." She looked at the blood on his shirt, then into his eyes. "I'm not crying because I married you." Caleb stopped. "Then why?" Clara's lips trembled. "Because I thought I was going to lose you." If you enjoy emotional Western stories filled with danger, sacrifice, and second chances, like this video, subscribe to Meaningful Last Chapters, and comment below what you think is really happening in this cabin. Now let's go back to where it all began. 3 months earlier, Clara Whitmore had been living alone on a dying homestead outside Red Creek. She was 26, stubborn, hardworking, and carrying a secret she had never told anyone. Her father had died the previous winter. Her mother was gone. And the only thing he had left her was 40 acres of land that a wealthy rancher named Silas Boone desperately wanted. At first, Silas offered money. Then more money. When Clara refused, his smile disappeared. "You can't protect this place forever," he warned. Clara shut the door in his face. 3 nights later, someone burned her barn. She rebuilt it. Then someone poisoned her horse. She survived. But the threats kept coming. Then Caleb Mercer arrived. He was 34, a respected rancher who lived alone on a large spread several miles from town. People said Caleb had stopped believing in love after losing his first wife years earlier. He never spoke about her. Never danced. Never courted. Never even looked twice at another woman. Until he saw Clara standing in the middle of the road one afternoon with a broken wagon wheel while 3 men laughed at her. Caleb dismounted. "Need help?" Clara looked at him suspiciously. "I can manage." "I didn't ask if you could." He fixed the wheel anyway. That was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Caleb discovered the truth about Silas. The man wasn't merely trying to buy Clara's land. He had discovered that the railroad planned to build a major supply station nearby. If Silas controlled the surrounding properties, he would make a fortune. Clara's 40 acres were the final piece. Caleb offered Clara a marriage of protection. "You can stay on your land," he told her. "I'll make sure Boone can't touch you." Clara studied him. "And what do you want in return?" "Nothing." That answer frightened her more than any threat. But she accepted. Their wedding was simple. No grand church. No crowd. Just a preacher, 2 witnesses, and a cold Wyoming wind outside. When Caleb placed the ring on her finger, Clara whispered, "Thank you." He answered quietly, "You don't have to thank me." That night, they reached the cabin. But before Caleb could explain the truth, he had to leave. Earlier that evening, he had discovered one of Silas's men hiding near the property. Caleb confronted him. The man pulled a knife. Caleb won. But the blade had cut deep across his ribs. He hid the wound beneath his shirt because he didn't want Clara frightened on their wedding night. He thought the danger was over. He was wrong. 3 hard knocks struck the cabin door. Caleb immediately reached for his gun. Clara froze. A voice came from outside. "Mercer." "Silas Boone." Caleb looked at Clara. "Stay behind me." The door exploded inward. 3 armed men rushed inside. Silas stepped through the smoke. "Give me the deed, Mercer." Caleb raised his gun. "You're too late." Silas smiled. "No. I'm exactly on time." A gunshot thundered. Caleb shoved Clara aside. The bullet tore through his shoulder. He staggered. Clara screamed. Then something changed inside her. The frightened bride disappeared. She grabbed the iron poker beside the stove and swung it with everything she had. The first attacker collapsed. The second grabbed Clara from behind. Caleb slammed into him. The cabin became a battlefield. Fists crashed against walls. Glass shattered. The lantern fell. Silas raised his gun toward Clara. Caleb saw it. And stepped between them. The gun fired. Caleb dropped to his knees. "Caleb." Clara rushed toward him. Silas smiled. "Now give me the deed." Clara looked at him through her tears. Then slowly stood. "You're going to have to kill me first." Silas raised the gun. And outside, horses thundered toward the cabin. The sheriff had arrived. But Silas wasn't surrendering. He grabbed Clara and dragged her toward the back door. Caleb, bleeding badly, forced himself upright. "Clara." She looked back. Their eyes met. And for the first time, Caleb wasn't looking at her like a woman he had promised to protect. He was looking at her like the woman he loved. Silas dragged Clara into the darkness. Caleb stumbled after them. Every step sent fire through his shoulder and ribs. But he kept moving. Behind the cabin, Silas forced Clara toward a waiting horse. "You should have taken my offer," he snarled. Clara fought him. "You don't own me." Silas grabbed her arm. "You'll learn." Before he could lift her onto the horse, Caleb appeared behind him. "Let her go." Silas turned. Caleb stood in the snow, blood running down his shirt, his revolver aimed directly at him. Silas laughed. "You're dying, Mercer." "Maybe." Caleb's voice was calm. "But you're not taking my wife." Silas fired. Caleb dropped behind a tree. Clara saw a loose branch near her feet. She grabbed it and struck Silas across the face. He staggered. Caleb fired. The bullet knocked Silas's gun from his hand. The sheriff and deputies surrounded them seconds later. Silas Boone was finally arrested. But Caleb collapsed before he could see Clara safely inside. "Caleb." She caught him. His eyes barely opened. "Are you hurt?" Clara began crying again. "No." "Then why are you crying?" She pressed her forehead against his. "Because you're hurt." He smiled weakly. "I've been hurt before. Not like this." The doctor arrived and worked through the night. The bullet was removed. Caleb survived. But the next morning, Clara sat beside his bed and finally told him the truth. "When I cried tonight." Caleb looked at her. "I thought you regretted marrying me." "I was afraid." "Of me?" Clara shook her head. "Of losing you." She wiped her tears. "For most of my life, I've had to be strong. When my father died, I was strong. When Silas threatened me, I was strong. When they burned my barn, I was strong." Her voice broke. "But when you stepped in front of that gun." She looked down. "I realized I had finally found someone I couldn't bear to lose." Caleb reached for her hand. "You didn't marry me because you loved me." "No." "Then why did you?" "Because I needed protection." Caleb nodded. "And now?" Clara smiled through her tears. "Now I need you." For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Caleb squeezed her hand. "I think I need you too." Weeks passed. Caleb healed slowly. Clara stayed beside him. Their marriage changed. There were no more separate rooms. No more pretending this was merely an arrangement. They laughed together, worked together, and began rebuilding the ranch. Spring came. The railroad arrived. And Clara's 40 acres became worth more than anyone had imagined. Silas had wanted her land for money. But Clara refused to sell. Instead, she and Caleb built a new barn and expanded the ranch. One evening, Clara stood outside watching the sunset. Caleb walked up behind her. "Do you remember our wedding night?" She smiled. "I remember crying. I thought you hated me." "I didn't." "What were you thinking?" Clara turned toward him. "I was thinking that after years of being alone, someone had finally made me feel safe." Caleb gently touched her cheek. "And now?" She smiled. "Now this is home." He kissed her forehead. The same woman who had cried into a pillow on her wedding night now stood beneath the Wyoming sunset with the man she had once married only for protection. She had entered his cabin as a frightened bride. She stayed because she had found something neither money nor land could buy. A family. A home. And a love worth fighting for. Sometimes the tears on a wedding night aren't tears of regret. Sometimes they're the tears of someone who has finally found a place where they no longer have to be afraid. If this story touched your heart, like the video, subscribe to Meaningful Last Chapters, and share this story with someone who believes love can heal old wounds. And before you go, tell us the name of your city in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Because maybe, somewhere in your city tonight, someone is still waiting to discover that their hardest chapter isn't the end of their story. Sometimes it's the beginning.